Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Stephanie and today I am here to talk about the 13 books that I read in February. Pretty good reading month for me, I would say. So this was the first month that I had actually set a TBR using my TBR jar prompts, and I chose 8 books and I read 6 of them, and 7 of them were just mood reads. I started off the month actually completing a series. Finally finished the Natural series this month, and I had already read book 1 way back in July of 2023. And this series, you know, it's weird for me because I never know kind of what to do when it happens like this with the series. I did not love book 1 or book 4, but books 2 and 3 were really good. So it's weird because I started off on not the best note and I ended off on not the best note, but the middle was great. So I just don't really know what to make of that. This is a YA series. It is basically like Criminal Minds, but it's not just behavioral profiling. It is a group of teenagers who are called naturals because they have like natural aptitudes to do things like detecting lies, reading emotions, behavioral profiling, statistics and numbers, things like that. This group is solving cases in every book, but there is also a love triangle. There's also a found family aspect in here, and all of the characters are really sweet and lovable and complex. I just found that books 1 and 4 left a little bit more to be desired for me. Books 1 and 4 were 3 stars for me, but books 2 and 3 were 4 stars for me. So I would say, you know, I liked this series. I didn't absolutely love it, but I liked it, and especially books 2 and 3, I enjoyed my time reading, and technically I only read these 3 this month. Oh, I forgot to mention too, actually, one of the books included in the 13 is a novella that is in the back of book 4 here, and the novella is called 12. It was about like 150 pages or something like that, and honestly, I didn't feel that it was necessary at all. I didn't really like the novella. I rated it 3 stars because it wasn't bad by any means, but I just felt like it was a little bit unnecessary. In my total, I counted this as 4 books. So 4 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, and the novella was also 3 stars. After that, I read some queer books for Valentine's Day. So I started off with a YA book called She Drives Me Crazy. It is set in high school, so it's very, very YA. But personally, as someone who was a younger gay person, I think it's really, really cute and sweet and wholesome to read YA queer romances, like first loves and things like that. I just think it's so adorable, but just know going in that that is the vibe that you're gonna get. It is a sapphic romance between these 2 girls. One is an athlete and one is a cheerleader. I liked this book. I remember it being really cute. The writing was not anything that blew me away, but I enjoyed my time reading it. I thought that it was sweet, and I gave it 3 stars. Next one that I read is Stars in Your Eyes by Kacen Callender. This was a book of the month add-on, and this is another queer romance, but this is 2 men. This is an adult book. They are both actors, famous movie stars, and they have very different reputations. One of them is more of like the golden retriever, like good boy, and one of them is like the bad boy type of vibe. And they start fake dating because they're starring in a new movie together and they want to improve the one guy's reputation. This was really, really good, but this was a very, very serious, heavy-hitting book. There are a lot of discussions of mental health and trauma, and this book at the core is really about 2 people who are working through their own respective traumas and how they are impacted in a relationship by those things and how they're trying to heal and grow as people. Don't go into this thinking that you're getting a light, fluffy rom-com. You're definitely not, but if you want something deep and emotional, but still really good, I really liked these characters, I would recommend this book. I rated it 4 stars. Next queer romance I read was another YA called Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzales. I really thought that the premise of this book was cool. Going into it, I knew that it was basically like a Bachelor type show, but instead of it being a bunch of random people who come and try to compete for The Bachelor, it's The Bachelor's exes. And The Bachelor in this is a prince. And then the whole queer aspect is that two of the contestants end up falling in love with each other instead of the guy. So I thought that, like I said, that this was a really cool idea. But I didn't really think about the fact that, like, this is YA. That age range, they were only meant to be, like, newly 18, I think, is not really realistic for being in that kind of reality show setting. And also the entire plot of this 18-year-old guy having like 7 or 8 exes that he had serious relationships with that are willing to come on a show and compete for him back is just really far-fetched, and not in a way that was still enjoyable. It was just straight up far-fetched, and they were also from all over the world, different countries, and this book took place in a fictional country, but there were also like real countries mentioned, and it was a little confusing because it was like, are we in a fake world or a real world, or like what's going on? I felt like the queer romance in this was literally like the tiniest subplot. It was really mainly about this show and this guy. Like, you could not get away from him. I swear he was either in or mentioned on every single page of this book, and I went into this wanting like a cute queer romance, and so I was disappointed. I gave it 2 stars. Next was another Kindle Unlimited book. This was a sapphic romance. It was adult, set in a small town. 2 women who both are back in their hometown after having moved away and been gone for like 10 years. They're in their early 30s, maybe late 20s. They knew each other in high school, but they both thought that the other didn't like them, but they also then both secretly had a crush on each other, and they run into each other 10 years later. The feelings and stuff come up, and it's just really cute because it's dual point of view. So you get to see like the one girl having like all of these feelings and thoughts and being like, you know, I don't think she likes me, blah, blah, blah. And then in the next point of view, you're getting like the same thing from the other girl. Like, I don't think she likes me. I've always had a crush on her. And it's just like really cute to see the back and forth and watch it develop into more. I really liked this book. The one girl was an influencer, and there were some like really cute scenes of the other girl helping her shoot content and things like that. And I just thought that was like really cute. The only thing that took it down for me was I did find some of their banter to be a little bit like cringy and just not my humor. But other than that, it was a really cute book. I gave it 4 stars. Next up, we have my first 5-star of the month, which is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. I am a huge Magnolia Parks fan. This is the 5th book in the Magnolia Parks universe, so we are smack dab in the middle of a series, so I can't really tell you exactly what went on in this book. All I can say is that the emotions and the growth and the change of these characters was absolutely incredible and tied up in this book, because this book is the last one in these 2 characters' points of view. If you haven't picked up Magnolia Parks, please don't be swayed by people saying that the book is just about a toxic relationship. The series starts that way, but it's really about growth, healing, change. It is about a friend group who are socialites in London, and they've all known each other since they were kids. They're raised by billionaire parents, and they just have this really tight-knit group. They all have relationships with each other. You're just really in the inner workings of all of their minds. And even though, yes, like, they're billionaires, 99% of this book is not relatable for that reason. But the emotions and the things that they go through, like, a lot of them are very relatable. And I just really have a fondness and like a deep like place in my heart for these characters. I just love them. But this was 100% 5 stars for me, 6 stars, 7 stars, a million stars. I loved it. Next, I read Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington. This is a young adult, dark academia thriller-ish, but this is one of those books that really feels like a fever dream. The author themselves went on to Goodreads and stated that this is a satire. It's not meant to be taken seriously as a thriller. It is a hyperbole satire representation of things that are very relevant in real life. It's about this girl, and she loses her scholarship and admittance to Yale because she got into a fight, and she's a woman of color. She goes to an all-white school. It's clearly like very racially motivated against her. She's invited to these games that are held by this rich family, and they basically offer the winner to be taken care of financially for the rest of their lives, to have their influence, their power, their strings. They have like a hand in every industry, and you're winning like basically their family name. The girl goes into it thinking that it's just like aptitude, intelligence, like puzzles like that are more about your brain or your intellect, and she is soon surprised that these games are deadly and strange. So that is the premise of this. Like I said, this is one of those like weird speculative fiction fever dream type of books. Those aren't for me, so I didn't love it, but I can really appreciate it for what it was. I rated it 3 stars. Next, I read Dead 11. This was my second 5-star of the month. This is considered a horror book, and I was really nervous because I don't read horror, I don't like gore. I can only really go so far with those things, and it's not very far. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but the premise of this book sounded really interesting. It's basically about this guy whose sister goes missing, and they find out that the last place that she was seen was this remote island called Clifford Island that's off of Wisconsin or something like that, or like, I don't even know. It didn't really make like geographical sense, but you can ignore that. She was last seen in this remote island. You can't find anything about the island on the internet. It's very, very strange. He somehow figures out where it is, and this is basically him telling the story of him trying to find his sister. And you're also getting the point of view of the sister before she disappeared, and you're getting points of view of people on the island. And this is also told in like, there's text messages, there's interviews. It's kind of a mixed media in that way. But basically this island is very strange. It seems like they're stuck in some kind of time warp. They act oddly. There's a very cult-like mentality. There's rumors of monsters and things going on the island, and it's just very creepy. This felt like sitting down and reading one of those stories, like scary stories on Reddit. And the author has viral stories on the No Sleep Reddit, which doesn't surprise me at all because that is exactly how this book made me feel. And if you are like me and you are really, really unsure about horror, this is not like intense horror at all. This, to me, I would classify more as a paranormal thriller. And because of that, I loved it. Now, I know that there are some horror lovers who don't like this book, and I can see why, because I do think that maybe classifying it as a horror was not exactly accurate. But I just found this book so entertaining. I was so sucked into the story. It gripped me. I did not want to stop reading. I listened to half of it on audio, loved it, and then I read the second half, and it was a good experience both ways, and I just really, really enjoyed this book. 5 stars, definitely recommend it. Next, I read These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is the first book in a YA duology. I thought that this was a romantasy. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, so there is an element of romance, of course. This is more, though, of a historical romance to me, with a, like, I don't know, the absolute slightest fantasy element, because there's no fantasy, magic, or anything like that in this book other than this monster that is terrorizing Shanghai. This takes place in Shanghai in the 1920s, and it's about 2 rival gangs, and the Romeo and Juliet aspect is the heir of each of these gangs. They had a secret relationship back when they were teenagers, and they're older now. They are kind of back in the same place again. But this mainly focuses on the politics of this world, and Chloe Gong did write in the back of the author's note that this is historically accurate for the time period. Of course, like, the characters are fictionalized and the gangs are fictionalized, but they are also based off of real gangs that were in Shanghai and running the politics at this time. But this is mainly about the politics between the gangs that are running Shanghai and their political system and everything. Like, they are ruling, they're in charge, and the Communist Party and other parties are trying to come in and basically rob them of their power. To me, this book really focused on that stuff a lot more than the Romeo and Juliet aspect or really anything else like that. It was okay. I didn't love the storytelling of this book. I felt like it could have been a lot more enjoyable if this was a dual POV first person, where you were getting, like, each chapter was a different point of view. This was a third person, and you were getting multiple points of view in the same chapter, in the same scene. You were just like an all-knowing kind of being watching this happen, and you get to know like all of their inner thoughts, but on a surface level. And I would have really preferred to be in one character's point of view separately so that I could have more like of the depth to their thoughts. It just made it hard to connect with the characters, but I did like the idea of the plot, and I thought that, you know, it was pretty enjoyable. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I will read the sequel. And last but not least, I have been reading the Addicted series on and off for probably like 4 or 5 months now. I usually just have one of them going in the background because for me, the Addicted series, I correlate it to like watching the Kardashians. Like, I don't love the show by any means, but like if it's on, I can't help but like look and pay attention and be kind of interested. And that's how the Addicted books started out for me. And they are basically, they start following these two characters, Lily and Lo. One has a sex addiction, one is an alcoholic. They're together and they're basically trying to work on their addictions, grow as people, grow in their relationship. And then throughout the series, you meet their siblings and their friends. The fourth book, you change points of view. So you're not with Lily and Lo anymore. You're with Rose and Connor. And that is what I read this month, Kiss the Sky. So it was the first Addicted book out of Lily and Lo's point of view. Technically, it's in the Calloway sisters universe, but you have to read the books in order. So I'm just gonna say they're all addicted. I liked it better than the first 3 Addicted books. I liked Rose and Connor's points of view better. I didn't love the reality TV show plot. Basically in this one, they are all on a reality TV show about their lives, and that's the main like conflict point and plot point. A lot of this book is just following, you know, the characters, and it's not as plot heavy, but there's always kind of a background plot going on, and I didn't really love that. There was one side character who was a part of that who was just absolutely like miserable. Rose and Connor's point of views were great. I really enjoyed them. This one still stayed at a 3-star for me, but I have already started the next one, which is in Daisy and Reich's point of view, and so far that is more than a 3-star for me. So I am getting more and more into this series as I go on. It's kind of started as just like kind of a not great but entertaining thing, but I'm starting to get attached to the characters. So that is everything that I read in February. I hope that you enjoyed my wrap up. Let me know if you read and liked any of those books or didn't like, or your thoughts in general, and I will see you in my next video.